every law firm has its own secret sauce. So, what that source is made up of, the firm's culture, the people that work there, that work that they're doing for their clients, and no one will be able to ever replicate that secret sauce, right? But that doesn't mean that you can't look at other places in your same field, that their process, procedures, technology, what sort of things they're doing to help make you more efficient. I think there's a bit of you know firms need to come to that understanding that they're there because people want to work with them, and there's no risk of I say there's no risk, but you know what I mean? There's no risk of that overlap happening if you've got a really strong brand and a really strong culture. That's what's drawing people to you. And it's just looking at those peripheral things where you can actually make that more efficient. I think there's something that can really be learnt there in law.
Yeah, these guys are fine tuning and experimenting all the time, and that taking risks, I think, and not everything he tried worked, and he's pretty candid about a lot of the things that didn't work. But I did really like when he sort of, he would often talk about this wisdom that he gathered from his dad. And I thought that was a really beautiful connection. And I thought it was a really wise thing as well. You don't have to think it all up yourself. You can draw on the
Yeah.
experience of others. But he also said somewhere in the book about serving people what you'd like to receive.
Yes.
And I thought in terms of the customer experience, he just seemed tuned into that. He's got all these people. They've got all these things going on. They've got these really big, ambitious targets, but he was really able to stay in this understanding what the customer experience was. And yeah, I wondered what you thought about that for firms.
Yeah, I think that plays into something that probably was one of the biggest resonators with me in the book. And that's this making the charitable assumption, which is another thing that he talks about.
Yeah.
You know, I think, and I'll dive into this in two separate ideas. So the customer experience side, when you're dealing with a wide array of different people every day in hospitality and the same in legal, your client base is completely broad. And if I'm talking from a Lex Veritas point of view, our clients who are lawyers are also very diverse. There is factors outside of what happens that you can control that you just don't know. So he talks about this whole thing about making the charitable assumption that, when you go into a situation, assume that if someone is not their self or they're reacting negatively towards you, let's just pick ourselves up and let's be more positive and just try and change that attitude for them and make sure if they're all right and ask those sort of questions. And I think from a customer experience point of view, that's something that's really valuable because everyone has bad days. We all know that there are certain people that are going to be more difficult to deal with than others, but let's come from the angle, instead of being defensive on that, let's come from the angle of how can I help make your day better, essentially, And
Yeah.
then, yeah, and then essentially the same works, and Will's a big thing about this for his own staff, as a business leader, as a law firm leader, you're going to have the same things. You work with a diverse group of employees, a diverse group of individuals. There's a lot of factors, and that multiplies out. The bigger you get, I'm sure these problems are bigger for bigger firms because you simply have less touch points with the amount of employees you've got. Make that charitable assumption if someone's, 10 minutes late to a meeting, or they've fallen a bit behind abnormally with their billed fees for 1 month or something, instead of being questioning their work ethic and what's going on. If you have that charitable assumption, they're going to feel more connected to you and think like, oh well, this person actually cares about my well-being. So that was definitely one of the core messages that he talks about a lot that I really took away, and I actually try to implement, or hopefully I am implementing that a lot in our sort of day-to-day. Yeah.